Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army.
Welcome to Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project and broadcast on TLBTV. Today I have one of those shows that I just look forward to when I know I'm going to have a guest on that I click with, a guest who you have that trust in. Okay, then you know it's going to be a great show. I'm going to tell you right now, my guest, or our guest, because Rebecca is my co-host and I can't do this show without her, is a friend, is somebody that has been a part of the Liberty Beacon Project, if not in function, in contribution for years, and somebody who we trust a lot. We never choreograph a show. We don't take notes. We don't make bullet points. This is a discussion. It is not an interview. It would be an insult to do an interview with Mr. Randy Maugans, especially with the ties he has to the Liberty Beacon Project. So we're going to have a discussion. And what are we going to discuss? As usual, I'll give you about a one and a half minute monologue going into this. Last time Randy, Rebecca, and I did a show, we talked about 30 years of perspective. We talked about how Randy and I, and to some degree, not as much, Rebecca, have seen changes in this country over the last 3 generations. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to take that one step further, because we are seeing everything that has been, culminating into what we are seeing today. Everything that has been going on. It started with little things like Watergate, which was a huge scandal. Okay, it started with little things like that. Today we have Pedogate. Today we have email Clinton server. Today we have Uranium One. Today, and I could continue on and on for a list that stretches this long in fine print. This is the culmination of more corruption than we have ever seen in the history of this country, ever. And then there's Trump. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca. What do you think, Rebecca? How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking. And it's such a delight to have Randy back on the show. Randy Maugans, oh my gosh, he has so much knowledge in advanced metaphysics. He is a media producer, talk show host, a fantastic interviewer, a designer, technologist. I mean, he is just so well-rounded, but with all of that, he's extremely knowledgeable on the things that have been going on, and he's not only been following it, but he has been sharing that information and getting it out so that people can be educated about the things that are going on. And I think that this is a perfect time with all of the things that have transpired since we have spoken with him last, to bring him on and give our audience an update, because everything that people had said way back when, oh, that is not true, there's so many people so far-fetched out there, it is all unfolding. And like one of the infamous sexual predators out there who was star of House of Cards, it is all falling down like the House of Cards.
Well, what would you expect from a gentleman whose organization is OffPlanet Radio and OffPlanet TV? What would you expect? This is a guy who sits about 100 miles off planet and just looks. Randy, how are you? How have you been?
Yeah, that's kind of the metaphor, isn't it? We just kind of take off and peer down and look at what's happening at the denizens of planet Earth as they scramble to catch up with us. Because we've been trending on this stuff for decades.
Yes.
People like Rebecca, yourself, me, we kind of had the early lead in a lot of stuff that now is starting to break, and people are stunned by what they're seeing.
Okay, you heard my minute and a half opening. You understand, and I believe you see this probably more than most people. We're looking at the culmination of so many streams of corruption. Okay, we're talking about congressmen, we're talking about administrative personnel, we're talking about assassinations, we're talking about murder, we're talking, all of these different streams are now doing this.
Human trafficking, sexual harassment, Hollywood.
So give us your impression of where the hell America is right now. And then there's Trump.
About that, I had my mic muted again. Bad habit. So, well, there's Trump. We are actually just seeing in this year the convergence of everything coming together. And what I'm most stunned by is it's man in the street level now. It's not the conscious communities or the alternative media or the people in conspiracy tinfoil hat circles. It's the guy in the office cubicle next to you. It's the guy buying a newspaper on the corner. They're all starting to get it. I have some concerns about what's going to happen with that, because I also see people being very jaded about it. But it took what? How many wars have we fought in our lifetime? About 40 some wars. Watching economies implode, collapse, watching the things that have gone on with the big corporations and what they've been doing. Even Monsanto is struggling right now because the bloom's kind of off the rose with Monsanto. People are beginning to realize, holy crap, this isn't just a corporation. This is war crimes on steroids.
But Randy, Monsanto's also now, because of that, starting to venture out into something that's a lot more considered civil or care-oriented.
Really?
Yes.
We'll see. And we'll see what's behind that. Randy, you make some really, really sterling points. And we're talking to you, when you talk about a convergence, we're looking at, as you say, the average man in the street now is saying, gee, what's going on? We're looking at MSNBC and CNN saying, well, Hillary and, she's been covering up for Bill. And all of a sudden, all of the people on the Clinton bandwagon, not all of them, but a bunch of them are dropping off. And as they drop off, they're turning around and saying, gee, did you know? I can't even count the stabs in the back the Clintons had over the last 2 weeks. Stop and consider something. For 25 years, they ruled the roost, literally. And now it's falling apart. And then there's Trump. Now, that's the third time I've said that. And I know it's funny, but there's a point behind that, okay? I am not a Trump butt buddy. I'm not, okay? What I am is somebody who says, if you're going to do something for this country and you're going to promise you're going to do something for this country, you damn right well better do something for this country. Now, there are things Trump is not addressing, and I'm seriously disappointed, and I write about it. There are things he is addressing, things he's addressing that no other president in recent history has addressed, and I'm happy to see that. So that's why I say, and then there's Trump. Because if you don't think Trump isn't at least partially behind the absolute decimation of the Democratic Party, we're missing something.
I've been told there's different streams of intel that run out there. I've been told even by some military insiders that there is a cleanup operation in process emanating.
It has something to do with the with the helicopters and all the Marines that landed at the CIA
Yeah,
headquarters in Langley?
that was actually an interesting couple of days. I never repeated the story.
Neither
but
did I.
I did get some. This is an exclusive. I've not talked about this. I got a heads up from a gentleman in the South who worked for a major military defense contractor somewhere in Alabama. You might be familiar, and he has deep contacts into Army Special Operations, Navy SEALs, people who have reached inside of the military, who also confirmed that there was definitely some action going down in Virginia in regards to what goes on at Langley. And see, that's the epicenter right now is Langley. There's at least 3 factions inside the CIA, and 2 of those factions are warring with the other one right now. And it's dividing the operations to the point where the CIA itself is actually starting to become ineffective, something they've not been in their history. But they're being compromised heavily now by inside intruders who are taking out some of the dark operatives. And dark operatives, I mean the people responsible for narco trafficking, pedophilia, what you used to call white slavery, human trafficking, just off the boards assassinations that have gone on, and the inside the country, inside the government intrigues that they've been running, as well as some of their underground operations related to the underground bases. So
The dumbs.
The dumbs, yeah. So that's the intel that I got. It's you take it on advisement because nobody's confirmed anything.
Well, I would tell you that from the people I have talked to, and you know I spent 30 years buried in the military-industrial complex.
Yep.
From the people I've talked to, there's one thing about your story I would change. Actually, I fibbed. There's nothing about your story I would change. And it goes a little bit further than that, too, okay? We are seeing right now a president who, and again, not a Trump, I'm not a Trump worshiper, okay? We are seeing a president who is willing to stand up to what you and I would consider what other people call the deep state, which they really haven't got a clue what the deep state is, or the shadow government. But when you're talking CIA and a few other things, you're talking about shadow government. So what I'm also understanding from these people is that over in the very beginning of the new year, we are going to see an explosion. There are over 2,000 sealed indictments floating around out there. And
Over
there is even
2,800.
rumor, hold on, let me get one more thing out, and then this is where I want you to go, okay? Including a rumor flying everywhere that Mueller is actually working a sting with Trump to take down the shadow government.
Yes.
How crazy can all this be? Go ahead, Rebecca.
I think it's crazy, but I wouldn't want to give out tactics knowing that if there was something that's going to happen to really make this country change the direction that it's been going in, I definitely would not want to advocate or say anything one way or another to the rumors. It needs to happen the way it needs. The operation would need to be planned if that in fact is the case. So speculation on this is, in my opinion, something that shouldn't be discussed. However, I do have a question though, because with what we're seeing, and I really want Randy to answer this because of all of the things that he has been involved with, the intel that he gets and stuff like that. For a president or anyone to bring down and uncover the amount of things that has happened in such a short period of time, how difficult is that? I'm completely blown away because it's kind of like we've had speculation before, we've had some things that have been confirmed, but yet they were not further investigated, blah, blah, blah. Was it because it was too difficult? Well, how come now all of a sudden it doesn't seem to be that difficult to go in and get a job done?
Can I speculate?
Yes. This is the discussion. It's not an interview.
Okay, so there's a couple angles to this. Number one is that I have to believe that whatever actions are or aren't being taken, somebody's playing a very deft game. If you watch Trump's Twitter feed, if you watch the major headlines, it's like standing between a bank of funhouse mirrors, because basically everything is distortion. That distortion is actually gameplay in intelligence circles on a regular basis. So whatever Trump's doing at any given time, the sleight of hand is that he's not doing it. And see, that's either the genius or the madness of the entire Trump caper. You don't really know, but it's entertaining as hell. And in the meantime, there's bodies dropping out of, 10-story windows. I don't...
Because of what is being uncovered.
Nobody needs to take credit for this ultimately. It is, or there's it feels to me, and we've said this for years, because in some of the circles that I talk to, I'm obviously talking about disclosure of very deep, dark subjects that have been held in government databases. Whatever gets exposed at this point, does it matter who did it, or does it matter that it gets done and that the net effect is an awakening of the people in this country and a quickening of the spirit to get back to something a little bit more real, starting with questioning your own institutions. You start with the politicians themselves and the people who emanate out of that. The first ones to take flags, frankly, were the banking industry, 2008, 2009, 2010. I mean, I don't know anybody at this point, especially retired people, who don't recognize now how badly they have been hosed by their banking, financial institutions, investment services, Wall Street, and the markets in general. So that revelation has been out there even while Obama was in office. Some of this is organic, and some of it doesn't matter. History, this is the first president we've had since 1960 that is capable of doing this. He has the chutzpah to do it. He's
got an IQ of 154.
And he may also have the will to do it, even if he's doing it in some cases as vendetta for, let's just say, past grievances. Because I don't think that's past Donald Trump. I live in the East. I live in the Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey axis, the main line.
I used to live in Rhode Island, and I lived in Connecticut as well. So yeah, I know the influence, believe me.
Here, I was in New York when Donald Trump was emerging. I remember him when he was first starting out, when he was a very colorful figure, and he was very good at gaining media attention even back then, which leads you to one or two questions. Is this guy just really savvy and he likes the attention? Or was he being brought up through the ranks even then? I'm actually hold both opinions, and I don't have a problem with either one of them. Because ultimately, Trump can be the villain or he can be the hero. And if he gets the job done, it really isn't going to matter.
Let me expound on that a little bit, and you're going to see several other questions in your mind unfold. I agree with you. I really do, okay? We need to find out, and we haven't quite found out yet, whether or not he's playing a role or this is actually Trump, all right? There are a couple of things that I would say tend to fall a little bit towards his favor, okay? Some of the actions he has taken and some of the things he has said are so absolutely contrary to anybody who has ever sat in that office before. Now, he could sit here each day, do his job, and not ruffle any feathers, and probably even get some things passed and so on and so forth, and play the soft muffin that, hey, Obama played, okay? Or he could stand up and say, I was put here by the American people because they're tired of all of the shit that's going on, and I promise change. Well, he doesn't have to make the tweets he's making. My God, you're nailing yourself right on the chalkboard every time you do that. He doesn't have to make the comments he makes like lock her up or why isn't she in jail yet? These other presidents didn't do this. So, Randy, how does this figure in? Because, again, if he's just playing a part, he's doing it on a very dangerous path. Can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so sorry, audience. That's disturbing when somebody's lips are moving and nothing's coming out. You feel left out, didn't you? You didn't know what I was saying.
We did.
Okay, so again, watch The Apprentice, Trump's old TV show. Watch how deftly he played that game, of how he played people off of each other, the strategies he employed, same strategies he used in business. He's not a conventional businessman. He's sort of a reckless twist of a mafia don with a bit of New York native blood in him, who's able to walk this fine line between entertainer and a very serious cat. Very serious cat sometimes.
Okay. All right. So now we've talked about how we figure Trump might fit into this. And I do believe that he is the spark for a lot of the minor explosions we see going off around us. And I believe that's intentional. But let's talk about a culmination of all of this, okay? Let's talk about, and again, we won't go into the details on any of these, Pedigate. Let's talk about the huge scandal with Hillary and classified information. Let's talk about Uranium One. Let's talk, and again, we won't go through all of them because there's a lot, pay to play with the Clinton Foundation. All of this, it's not being hit 1, 2, 3, 4. It's all being hit 1, 2, 3. It's like a rapid fire machine gun. All of these things are happening simultaneously. In your opinion, is this going to culminate in a total flushing of the shadow government, or is this being choreographed to all be happening at the same time so we can't quite pay enough attention to any one thing to make the issue go away in a logical fashion? Is this a big smokescreen, all of this?
So let's go to the former first, which was, what was the former? Basically, yeah, it's both. I don't see this as the end of, quote, the shadow government. They're basically taking themselves out, which I think is the strategy. I think we are seeing a play now where the dominant view is once again tending towards challenging government, which forces government to do one of two things: dig deeper holes or become transparent. We'll see which way that goes. Like I said before, whatever Trump's role is, he's not showing his hand right now. He's being very deft. And I read between the lines on his tweets. I see the threats that he's making with North Korea, while even in the background, he's sending diplomats there. A lot of this, again, is shadow play. The government of North Korea has been a puppet regime since the end, and probably even before the end of the Korean War. All of the players, the Kims, the Youngs, the Ils, all of those whack jobs that run that company are all supported by our favorite team over at Langley anyway. So it's kind of like Langley A versus Langley B at this point. North Korea is kind of a theater of operations for them. My father told me this. He was in Korea. And the CIA actually managed to piss off everybody in Korea. They were second only to the UN in how many people they pissed off during the Korean War. So again, deaf games are being played. Everything's up in the air. It's up to people to decide, because the people will decide. Trump will respond to people. That's the one thing we know about him, is he's responsive to people.
So predict, where do you see 1 year from today, with all of this we know culminating early in 2018? Give me a rough guesstimate, and I know that it's impossible to say. Where do you think, from what you've seen, where will we be at this time in 2018?
I think we're going to be looking at a completely different landscape. The dollar collapse is imminent.
Yes.
That in itself can push the apple cart right off the end of the pier.
Well, we could have a currency change too, based on the gold standard.
Well, we could have a currency change based on the crypto standard.
Yes.
But
But Trump's talking about that too.
The actual battleground right now is really going on behind the scenes in two theaters. The old money order, which understands very well what's in play right now, and the new cryptocracy that's rising. Maybe the most
Good word.
Might be the most important game in town is to watch the tech world and what they're doing. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you think Bitcoin is a fiasco or it's the inroad to artificial intelligence, we've entertained all those questions. We've interviewed one of the most prominent advocates of Bitcoin out there, Cliff High, on the show several times now. And I have to say that he makes a compelling case. I'm skeptical. Nevertheless, you're not beating this back. This is not going away. We are going to have digital currency. We're going to have it next year, and we're going to have it on a scale. The capitalization right now of combined Bitcoin and Ethereum exceeds any of the major world banks by considerable numbers, tens of billions of dollars. Once Bitcoin is fully funded, capitalized, and has gone through what is probably the final layers of mining, we'll know a little bit more about what that climate looks like. So the biggest thing, regardless of any other intrigues that happen, is going to be on that front. It's going to be on the front of economics.
Okay, where do you see the military direction going? Because we are seeing, you know, I saw a headline on the internet the other day, which I had never seen under Obama. Gee, go figure. And it says U.S. troops, basically, I'm paraphrasing, storm ISIS stronghold supported by Soviet air cover. Routes the entire, I mean, they got everybody. So the point here is, you never would have saw that under Obama. Now all of a sudden, even though he's still talking tough, he's still got that big stick. He's not making out like we're kissing cousins with the Russians, but at the same time, we're seeing a movement and a direction in the war machine that we never saw under Obama. So how do you see?
You're seeing the exposure of what you've never seen before. The fact of the matter is, the Americans, and specifically the Russians, what you would have called the Soviet bloc up until 1979, 1981, were always working together clandestinely. Russia has been in the business of taking out ISIS, whether or not anybody gave a crap or not. I mean, last year, one of the last campaigns they did going into Syria was done on Obama's watch, and he wasn't happy about that. The Russians just basically said, we've had enough, we're taking them out. And bearing in mind that ISIS is a Zionist consortium commandeered from Langley by CIA2, and that what is really in play here even goes back to what's going on in Palestine and the Middle East. You know, the gamesmanship. Because let's face it, we know that Israel has their greater Zionist plans to expand beyond the boundaries of Israel itself and move back up into the northern regions where they can
Greater Israel.
Land, the Greater Israel. So
okay, they also have as the major portion of their economy, a huge portion of their economy, weapons industry.
Exactly.
Weapons and military technology.
Yep.
Okay, so peace does not work well for them. Peace does not work well for the military-industrial complex in the United States either. All right, you made a comment earlier. I want to fill in with a few statistics, and you know how my brain works, okay? Since the end of World War II, the United States in foreign skirmishes, okay, is responsible for in excess of 30 million deaths. That's not a guesstimate. That's a pretty accurate number, okay? In the Middle East alone, it exceeds 4 million, of which 90 to 95%, the government says, are collateral damage. They never should have been killed. 90 to 95%, okay? I see a shift in Trump. And again, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt until he proves that I screwed up, all right? But I see a shift in the military policy that may actually be accomplishing something at this point, because the only thing Obama did was breathe life into ISIS at a massive level.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rebecca, you've been like insanely quiet here and it's bugging me. Have you got something to add here?
Well, there's just so much information that's being shared between the two of you. It's absolutely amazing, especially the intel that Randy's got and the viewpoint that he has. I was really interested in sort of going a little bit more into what was going on with the currency, because there's going to be a lot of change that I think Americans would have to face if it goes all digital, or as you said, when it goes all digital. You know, what happens? How do you purchase, and so on and so forth? And does that mean that all of the things that have to do with the RFID chip and insertion and all of that, is that what we're coming to? You know, I know that there's a lot of questions.
Let me stop you there, because the RFID chip actually gets kind of pushed right off the map with digital. I know that there's a sector out there that has looked at anything digital as, quote, the mark of the beast. I get that. And I get why they think that, because of my own background coming from Christian broadcasting. The digital currencies are going to force changes. Not all of them are going to be favorable, especially to us old school guys who like gold and silver and folding paper money. But it is inevitable. And we may live in a hybrid system for a long time, but the transition's really being pushed hard. Amazon itself, well, let's take this as an example. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I said, haven't we been in a hybrid system for at least a decade? They're pushing, debit cards, credit cards, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that's really where it started. And honestly, if you go back and look, you'll realize we've had electronic banking since the late 70s in some fashion.
Yes.
Almost from the time that they started to issue credit cards, even though they were the magnetic strip readers. We had a system, and people don't realize how sophisticated computers have been and how long they've been capable of doing this. When you understand that Hitler ran the war machine in Nazi Germany, as well as all of the records used for the concentration camps and stuff, running IBM technology from the 1930s, roll that forward and understand that digital computers have been with us since the late 1950s. And so we've been in this system of electronic money, but we've maintained the old cash thing because it works. And in a lot of cases, it truly is anonymous. You can spend cash, you're anonymous. Digital currency is attempting now to come in and disrupt that paradigm as well. I'm not an advocate of any of the cryptos, but I don't think we're going to turn this around any other way. I think we're going to be forced to admit we have fiat money that's worth almost nothing at this point. The dollar is worth 1 cent of the 100 that it used to be worth back in 1912. We have to find another way to look at money. My hope, and I've put this out into the crypto communities that I interact with, is I would like to think of this as a bridge technology to get us away from the concept of money as we've come to know it, as something that is accumulated and used to wield power and used as a means of transacting things for the good of everybody.
Well, real quick, I've got to jump in here, Roger, because with that, the good of everybody and transactions, what about, foreign transactions? What about trade if they're not digital?
There are no foreign transactions. You've been in a global economy for over 30 years. The dollar is simply right now the de facto currency for the world based on the petrodollar. That is crumbling. That is one of the things that will crumble in 2018. We can't engage this any further. American imperialism was largely based on everything after World War II and the bringing together of the petrodollar after Nixon took us off the gold standard because of the moves that were made by the French. We now came to the place where we had fully fiat currency from 1974 forward.
I would tell you my biggest concerns about this entire subtopic we just discussed. I would tell you my biggest concerns about everything you spend being digitized. Because I was young when, a lot younger when I read 1984. Okay, we're looking at a society where, as you said, if you have cash, you can go buy something anonymously. If I want to go out today and I want to buy, I don't know, whatever, I can take it, bring it home. Nobody is the wiser. As soon as I take out that credit card, okay, and once the cash goes away, now everything you do, whether you drink lemonade, whether you drink a type of beer you drink, how much beer you drink, every part of your life can be tracked through your purchases, and nothing in your life is private anymore. This is what scares the hell out of me. Yet I published an article the other day where I'm talking about some people at these colleges lining up to be chipped so that when they go in, they can swipe their hand in front of the thing. Isn't that cool? Look, I can get $20 out of the ATM. Zoop, look at this. I just bought a ticket to the game tonight. And they are lining up to be chipped. This is all leading to what I just said. This is all leading to, if it's a totally digital currency and you need a card to make a purchase, you are tied to everything and your life is what you purchase.
Actually, it can go the other way.
I hope.
As far as Bitcoin goes, you can store your Bitcoin wallet out in the cloud somewhere. You can store it in a hardware locker. You can write your number down, burn your computers, drop everything, go across the border, you memorize your hash number, and boom, land in another company, pull your money out. It's virtual money. As far as
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Randy.
As far as anonymity goes, the blockchain ledger itself is publicly viewable at all times. Anybody can look at it. The identity of transactions, however, is hashed. And most of the communities that have promoted any of the blockchain technologies have said, we need to make this anonymous. And the governments of the world are going to rail against this. This is the thing they can't control. It is also the dark side of it because it means that everybody rolls equally now.
And I knew you would go here.
That's where I was going to go.
Well, we have the Silk Road. If you go back and you look at the story of Silk Road, that's the story of the rise of Bitcoin and what happened there. The first people through the doors, the FBI literally went to Reykjavik, Iceland, to raid the servers for Silk Road. Totally illegal, by the way. They did manage to confiscate somewhere in the neighborhood of, gosh, the numbers then worth like $350,000 in Bitcoin, which now is probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So the FBI actually holds a fair amount of Bitcoin. It's probably, they don't have the codes to get access to the cash. They simply have the ledger. But as far as we know, it is entirely possible to make this anonymous in the same way that money, cash money now is anonymous. Truly nothing's anonymous. Cameras are everywhere. They can watch you spend a dollar bill at a corner drugstore or at the dispensary where you pick up your, your meds or whatever. I assume we live in a surveillance society now. I live my life thinking, okay, they know everything about me. They know what brand of toilet paper I use probably.
Your smart TV, your smartphone, your smart... Look, hold on one second, Rebecca. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and then we're going to wrap this up. And I'm sure Rebecca's going to want to throw something in there first too. My point here is the Podestas. My point here is, Hillary Clinton. My point here is, and I could go down the list of these people right now that are sitting on the verge of what should be many, many, many years in prison. But yet we have had a 1 year long rat chase for information on Donald Trump colluding with the Russians, of which not one shred of evidence has come up about anything. We are staring in the face at criminal action that is sedition. Not maybe. Criminal action that is treason. Not maybe. Criminal action that is criminal action. Not maybe. And after a year of looking for Trump, we've got nothing. Can you tell me where you think this is going to end up? Because I see an explosion coming, or an implosion, however you want to think of it.
The Podestas they're like the walking bomb right now. They are the tip of the iceberg that goes
I love you.
Not just pedophilia, but mind control operations that have been run across all of Europe and the United States for the last 40 years. And the Podestas know a lot about that. They've been connected to things like the disappearance of Madeleine McCann in England, the Pizzagate affair, their ties to Harvey Weinstein, people in Hollywood. They are, once they're finally brought in, once they finally lasso these guys and get them to talk, the dark stories are going to emerge, and they're very dark because they have a lot to do with what has been going on in secret government projects like MK Ultra.
What about the email the Podestas passed off where they state, this is after the release of the emails, that an example must be made of him? And the next thing we know, we have a DNC insider dead, shot in the back twice. And, all of the details of that, even most people don't know. This guy was not dead when they found him. They took him to the hospital, okay? He was breathing. He was conscious. And, all of a sudden,
they just stopped breathing. I mean, it was amazing. Yeah.
So anyway, the point here is all of this, we have these master, this is James Bondish. These are like master criminals, These are Bond criminals. And there's about a half a dozen of them, and it's all converging in something that is going to trip. And it's going to be probably very soon in the new year. Do you see that happening?
Yeah. It's almost uncontainable. The pressure valve can't hold. The Podestas will either roll, or they're going to be, let's just say that their life expectancy decreases every day they're walking around.
Yes. All right, Rebecca, I know you wanted to say something, and I apologize for steamrolling over you, but I'm guilty.
No, that's totally right. All right. I don't want to backtrack. I just want to continue to move forward with our discussion now. And I know that there is just so much. I'm thinking that, Randy, we definitely need to bring you back to discuss some other things, maybe right after the new year, when there are things that, as you said, are explosive, and they will definitely need to be something that is shared with the viewers.
Yeah, let's get together. We'll prognosticate.
I love it.
We'll have a prognostication session.
So for everybody watching, this has been TLBTV, bringing you Eradicating Programmed Ignorance by the Liberty Beacon Project. And of course, one of our favorite people on the planet, Randy Maugans, was our guest today, and he will be again soon. And as always, I have the best co-host on the planet.
You do.
Rebecca Mahan.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for watching. Please have a great night. And Randy, stick around for a second, please.
I will.
Thank you.